Pretty scenes here at Gulfstream Park Friday afternoon. Sun is out. We are fast and firm, and it's good to have you with us, everybody, as we hope you're tied on for opening Friday and opening weekend of the spring meet here at GP. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett to her right, and we'll have a 9-race card on tap today and a lot going on, Acacia, throughout the weekend. And obviously, I think today, not only the 9 races here at Gulfstream, but opening day of Keeneland.
Of course, a lot going on throughout this weekend. In fact, of course, you do have Kentucky Derby prep races at Keeneland and New York and out in California, our sister track Santa Anita. So lots going on. You can, of course, watch and wager on everything right here at Gulfstream Park. And we do have 9 races to bring you, as Jason mentioned, and a beautiful Friday afternoon.
Couldn't have asked for a nicer day for thoroughbred racing here in Hallandale Beach, and we'll do just that, coming off an opening day program in which Nick Juarez and jockey Tyler Gaffalione won 2 races apiece. We'll have Nick with us today. Tyler riding the weekend out in Lexington, Kentucky at Keeneland, so best of luck to him, and certainly to all the Gulfstream Championship Meet graduates who are trying to conquer big races and marquee races from Kentucky up to New York. It is fun looking through the stakes and even some of those higher level races in New York tomorrow and certainly all weekend long at Keeneland, and seeing so many horses with the designated GP as their last running line. Yeah,
and I mentioned this yesterday. It's really fun to be able to watch them because you can remember these horses that ran here in the winter and got such a good winter bottom underneath of them to go on to some of those big races. And sometimes you can get really crafty and make a lot of money at the window. So it's really fun, and you do kind of feel a little bit of a sense of pride and maybe an ownership of being able to watch some of these horses, jockeys, trainers, whatever it may be, throughout the winter.
Absolutely, and let's hope we feel that same sense of pride when we're cashing some tickets today. And a brief little housekeeping rundown as to what's on tap on this 9-race April 6th. We begin a little after 1 p.m. with that opening super high 5 and no carryover to report. In fact, the first 3 races, and that also includes the opening leg of the 50-cent early pick 5, but the opening 3 races today over the fast main track at Gulfstream Park. And the 4th race on, it's all about new beginnings. Not only our opening turf race on the firm ground, but 75K plus.
That's right. A nice carryover there in the Rainbow 6 to start things off. Race number 4 today, and this 9-race program's a little bit earlier than what we might have seen last weekend. And then we do wrap things up. The 50-cent late pick 5 starts in race number 5 today.
Let's begin, actually, as we go full circle. I'll have and we hit the console yesterday for a whopping $6 in that late pick 5. I think I only lost 18, so we'll keep a running tally. We'll have a little fun with that throughout the spring season here at Gulfstream Park. And let's begin in race number 1. It's a tricky little opener to start the opening leg, of course, of the first pick 5. And I'm just wondering who you used and if you have the 5 magnifier on your ticket.
I do. We'll show you my ticket. Magnifier is definitely a bit of a question mark in here. I ended up using 3 horses. I do think it's kind of a wide open race. Alan Iwinski does have 2. So I used 3 horses. I really like Manolete in race number 2. I think on the drop just could be the day for him, but I'm also going to be using the 6 Moonlight Bandit. It might make it easier for these 2 with the scratch of Nauset Beach. Pretty key scratch in there. In the 3rd race, I think I have the best speed horse in Peace Accord and the best closer in Gold Shot, who probably will be a very short price dropping in class for Jane Sibeli. And in race number 4, going with 3 horses. Really nice way to start off today's Rainbow 6. You've got Ayla, a very talented mare who might have been a little bit trouble prone for Ralph Nix, and some other nice horses in there. And we cap things off with race 5. I think the live firsters are really the ones to watch. You've got, again, Ralph Nix, a horse that costs $100,000, and for the $25,000 tag, we'll see what we get from her. But I like La Duquesa for Armando de la Cerda,
who's by Poseidon's Warrior, who's got his, I'd say, most well-known horse in Firenze Fire, running in tomorrow's Grade 2 Wood Memorial up at the Big A. And what complicates, I think, matters for the first pick 5 on the card, there's major guesswork to be had in that back end, because it does look like a race that ultimately will be decided by a firster or 2, and certainly the ones they're going to better are new faces and some good barns like Armando de la Cerda and trainer Ralph Nix in the mix. Now, the 5 magnifier has really been a bit of an enigma with lengthy layoffs. You know, there's certain horses, for whatever reason, and certain efforts that just stick out in your mind. And I remember watching this horse 3rd time out off 2 very promising efforts in mid-March of 2016 up in South Ozone Park. I was with Naira at the time, and I remember this horse running away and hiding in a very fast daylight score on the inner track to break his maiden with the 94 Buyer. It's been rough sailing since then, and there's been some, you would imagine with the layoffs, there's been some issues keeping him around, healthy, sound, in one piece, and he, as they pull out all the stops, is the center point of this race as he drops in for 25,000 off about a 7.5-month layoff.
Yeah, he last raced in August at Saratoga. He's got some natural speed to him for sure, and he just kind of had a look to him, which I see was not lost on you either. He looks like if he is able to come running off of the layoff, he just might be the one in here. I did land on the number 7 Midway Playa, though. I know he's kind of been knocking on the door in his last couple of starts, but I'm hoping that picking up Nick Juarez will help make the difference and help him take that next step forward.
There's almost far less questions in the camp of Midway Playa if you like that gelding by American Lion on top, because his recent races have been good, and no knock on Avaro Donis, who rides the other Alan Iwinski trained runner in the opener today in Royalty Salvatore, but it never hurts picking up one of the circuit's top journeyman riders. And in a way, you get that the 5 magnifier is certainly live, but on the other end of that statement, you really don't know what you're getting with the horse who, again, just hasn't seen much action and might, who knows, get claimed today for 25,000. Anxious to see what he does in a pretty tricky opener. Let's move on to race number 2. Again, the opening 3 races today over the fast main track on a beautiful Friday at Gulfstream Park. 3 and up, $12,500 claimers will meet at the 1-turn mile, and we are down to a field of 7. The biggest affection, maybe all weekend long here at Gulfstream Park, the number 8 Nauset Beach, who was going to be, I thought, a really big favorite in this race. He is out, so we'll, couple things. We'll wait to see the Navarro brothers and Marcial and Jorge knocking heads, because Marcial also has a runner in the race in the 5 Ship Disturber, and his early speed or lack of early speed concerns me a bit, but that aside, Manolete, this could be a really, as you said it with your pick 5, really good spot for him.
I actually liked him on top all along, even before Nauset Beach. The fact that he was claimed and was coming back at the same level kind of concerned me a little bit, so it looks like they're waiting for another day, so I'll be curious to see where Nauset Beach ends up next time out. But Manolete, I just think that he's a really solid horse. I think he runs to his competition. His win 2 starts back was impressive. He was running just against much tougher last time out. I think the drop is going to be key for him, and Miguel Vasquez pilots him well. Now, I liked the potential pace scenario he was going to get in here with Nauset Beach and Moonlight Bandit. Indian Scout's not slow either, but Moonlight Bandit might be the one who really benefits the most from the scratch.
I think he's a little faster than Indian Scout. I'd be surprised if they were at 1-2, barring any sort of crazy break or any nonsense at the starting gate. They both have speed, but if you want the likely controlling speed with a rider who should fit him like a glove in Edgar Zayas, it's the number 6 Moonlight Bandit. Indian Scout, again, little interesting as I have him second. He's clearly coming in out of a dominating effort. We learn a little more about where he stands, though, off the Tammy Levy reclaim, because do keep in mind, he beat bottom-level claimers last time out, and obviously is having his claiming price doubled to $12,500.
He is. He did win by more than 10 lengths last time, so obviously they feel strongly about him, but he's got to prove himself today. But the fact that she did reclaim him, I think, is definitely a plus.
Yeah, it seems like Tammy's business has just picked up, and she continues to trend upward. She's now combined her talents with Drawing Away Stable, and they do have some horses coming up a bit later in the afternoon, as does trainer Jane Sabelli, who did have a winner on yesterday's card, and Mr. Bridger got a good ride to get things underway in the, I think, the opening leg of the Rainbow Six on yesterday's card, the 3rd race. And Jane Sabelli very much a part of the conversation in race number 3 on the dirt, a $35,000 3-and-up maiden claimer, sending out the former West Coast California dude in the 4 Gold Shot. It's just kind of funny that perhaps the first 2 choices in the betting in the 4 Gold Shot and Bean Cohn's horse on the outside, you got a couple of transplants here to Florida, a couple of surfer dudes out from the West Coast.
Yeah, I hope that they're liking the Florida weather and certainly have gotten a chance to get their feet wet with at least a start or two under their belts and shipping eastward. But this horse, Gold Shot, did try special weight company on the turf last time out for Jane Sibeli. And not only is she switching him back to the dirt, where he does seem to be stronger given his races in California, but she's dropping him in for the tag. And I do like that he is the only one in this race that has never been exposed for the maiden claiming tag before. So he's got a little bit of the class edge there. Inhibition is definitely interesting. What I think is even more interesting, and it might have been some Jose Ortiz money, but he was bet down to 70 cents to the dollar last time, and now he's 0 for 20.
He is 0 for 20, 3-5, was out of the try last time, running a narrow fourth, not badly beaten, but again, he wasn't first through third, and two horses that finished in front of him are back in the mix, including the three-piece Accord, who we both have second, and his main weapon is that early speed in a compact field. He might be able to get a little brave as Abby Medina, the 5-pound bug, rides him. Coming in off a good ride, he did what he had to do aboard the favorite in the nightcap yesterday in Sausalito.
That's right, and I think certainly that speed is going to be key, and on paper looks like this horse could be the controlling speed. So with Abby aboard, they just send and hope for the best.
About 46 minutes out from race one, we'll take a little time out. Rainbow 6 opening leg and our opening turf race on the Friday card up next.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Welcome to my playground. You wanna play nice, here we go. To my playground.
Good times here at Gulfstream Park. We hope your playground today is a winning one and you walk out of here with quite a bit of money. We've got our state-of-the-art simulcasting center in Silks, expressbet.com as well. Acacia and Jason back with you on the Friday edition, live, of course, from our paddock set studios of Gulfstream today. And a big weekend, big Friday throughout the nation, and things big here at Gulfstream Park with the #1 newsworthy item, and that is that Rainbow 6.
It always is. It got well over into the 20 million, past the 20 million mark this past weekend, but we're starting to build it once again, and $75,000 just to start, which is a nice chunk of change if you can get that one unique ticket. I did take a stab, and it's the Ron Nicoletti magic number 4320 today, as it is a pretty tricky sequence, but we have a really nice race to start things off. I mentioned this earlier in the pick 5 sequence, and I'm using 3 horses in here. You've got some classy fillies and mares that are going to try their hand. Then we've got a nice maiden 25. I'm using the same 2 first-time starters that I used in the pick 5. In race number 6, I'm going with the number 7 Gemstorm, who I think is really the horse to beat on the drop, but I'm including Attorney Al for Jorge Navarro. I think you can never overlook a horse from that barn. In race number 7, this is a really nice, the last 3 races really very strong in here, and I'm using 3 horses. I had to cut out Pat M's Image, who I really am a fan of, but she just has some really tough horses to deal with this afternoon, including Psalmody from Todd Pletcher's barn. In race number 8, Cipriana, probably the horse to beat, and she'll be a short price. I did include Liz Mimi Princess for Gustavo Delgado, whose barn has been on fire lately. And then we wrap things up in the 9th with a nice optional claiming race, again using 3 horses. I do have an interest in Padilla, a reclaim for Aubrey Mirage,
who's had a good year, 8 wins and counting in 2018, and that was achieved during the championship season, and it looks like Padilla might get a blistering pace to close into.
So
there
too.
are legitimate speeds signed on, and he is indeed a hard-hitting 8-year-old. Now, a bit of a different ball game here. Same distance, of course, as the nightcap, but a different division for sure as we bring on the gals in race number 4 to start the Rainbow Six in our opening turf race on the card. 3-and-up fillies and mares in this optional claiming race. And in the case of the Ralph Nix train, Ayla,
I think it's Ayla.
Ayla. Well, she's a 5-year-old mare by Benny the Bull, and if you're looking and want to see perhaps the most intriguing or interesting last out eventful trip, she has got it.
Oh,
That inside post did her no favors in her most recent race just a few days ago on March 25th. In fact, she's back with, what, 12 days between starts. She's the number 1. She's hustled up inside beneath Joel Rosario. Now, the field will bunch up a little bit, and if we can just freeze it here, I've long considered in talking to jockeys, and here's Ayla again down on the fence. Horses, when they hit the far turn, need a good, when they're switching leads, need a good 2 to 3 feet between them. And she'll just take the worst of it. Clearly, there was no room down inside. She steadied, she shuffled back, she loses all that ground, and I'm not going to hold the fact that she didn't really re-rally after that, because after all, the winner Just Talking put in a stakes caliber effort that day for trainer Jason Service.
Oh, absolutely. And look who she was facing in her last couple. Unfortunately, she ran into the service barn both times with Just Talking and Blue Bahia, who's all class for sure. So I liked her because I think that she's faced the toughest competition, and you don't like to see a mare with this kind of back class dropping in for the tag, but sometimes they just need that confidence building wind. If you have a race like that where her momentum is totally shut off, it can kind of break their hearts a little bit when they are so trouble prone. So hopefully the racing gods give her a little bit of luck this afternoon, because she certainly needs it. That being said, she's got a tough field to deal with today, and I'm in agreement with you. I think Unbridled Courage is really interesting.
She's run some good races. I kind of originally scoffed at her earlier in the winter when Luch brought her in from out of town, going, you know, I don't think she really stacks up with these good turf sprinters in these nice Florida-bred allowance optional claimers, and I was wrong about Unbridled Courage. She's got a good bit of back class, and change of scenery oftentimes never a bad thing. Oftentimes it's a good thing, and respect Anthony Cordarolo a lot and Luch, but I also have a ton of respect for trainer Armando de la Cerda and Midwest Thoroughbreds, and there's a good case to be made, I think, that Unbridled Courage will get a good pace in the race with Ayla on the rail. Don't forget the 4 Wanda Girl, and certainly, and she's got a big chance too, but the 7 Little Christina brings some big speed to the party.
She does, and she's run well in her last couple starts, now 3rd off the layoff for Carlo Vacarezza, so she definitely fits, but hopefully she's able to stay out of any sort of pace tool.
All right, late pick 5 is next as we turn the page. We're on to the 5th. Again, we're back on the main track here, field of 8, ready to go, and as we bring on this group of 25K 3-and-up filly and mare maiden claimers with that aforementioned group of 8, there is guesswork to be had. I mean, this is a race, unless you like the Antonio Sano horse, the number 2 All Run No Play, who's coming out of an okay effort, but a race that came up with a 33 buyer, I think you are almost gravitating, you're almost guaranteed to gravitate into the direction of either Most Privileged, the 3, La Duquesa, the 4, or the 6, or the 6, I should say, and Violent Wave has got a good work most recently for trainer Kathy Ritvo. I didn't see the morning line, but I think Southern Sea, coming off a layoff, trainer change this afternoon with even with the 0 for 12 is the horse to beat there. I also used the Firster by Rote for trainer Ralph Zadie and the 6 Mr. Spike. 3 deep in that aforementioned solid Friday feature. Did you only use Inside Out, Samodi, and Princess Gibraltar too?
Yes, that's what I did.
Yeah, it looks like that race, although Pat M's Image and maybe some of the other locals aren't hopeless, looks like it may come down to ultimately at crunch time, the big 3, which are on the ticket. Cipriana was good and maybe a little lucky. I mean, Cilantro, I think, had she broken better and had a smoother trip. Oh, it was a nightmarish trip for Cilantro, who looks like she might be stakes quality too. Maybe she beats Cipriana. Regardless, we think Cipriana's got some class, and that appears in race number 8. A very good spot to debut against winners and a solid field. Oh, some big turf veterans, some long-standing turf veterans veterans knock heads in the finale. And I used, I think, the best speed, but I also wanted 2 closers in Padilla. And trainer Ralph Zady's got a horse that he took off Marty Wolfson in the 8 More Mia, who's run pretty well here at Gulfstream.
It's a really nice way to close things out. And you and I were talking about this a little bit last weekend. We saw that speed on the turf was absolutely what you want. So we're keeping an eye on that over the next few days, but it does look like there should be a very quick pace in the nightcap.
As we come out of a 4 turf racing Thursday afternoon, we ran 4 on the grass, 2 won wire to wire. The other 2 winners were logical and had up close kind of trips. I still think speed the name of the game, and we'll see which one of these firsters shows some speed. You and I both think it'll be the Poseidon's Warrior firster and the number 4 La Duquesa, and I know we've got a pretty good stat here for trainer Armando de la Cerda.
This is really amazing to me. This is over the past 5 years. First-time starters on the dirt with maiden claiming 4 for 14 for 29% and 43% of the time in the money. Positive ROI of 210. And this one, she just looks like she's well spotted. They paid $20,000 for her. She's out of a stakes place mare who was a 6-time dirt sprinter. The only sibling was 1 for 8, but did win sprinting on the dirt. And this one, again, she just looks like she's well spotted for her debut. Nick Juarez in the saddle. And some of the other firsters in here, you've got Violent Wave and Most Privileged, both of whom had big purchase prices and are debuting for the tag.
And Most Privileged, do keep in mind, as she debuts for Edgar Zayas and Ralph Nick, she's 4. So she's got that big and relative gaudy purchase price of $100K. Do note, that was in a sale some 25 months ago. So there has certainly been some delay and consternation in getting her to the races. She need not be a monster, obviously, to win race number 5, but we'll take Armando's filly with Nick Juarez in the 5th. Let's move on to race number 6, field of 9, as we head back to the turf, and we basically spend the remainder of the card with the exception of 1 race on the GP Green, and we have a $12,500 3-and-up maiden claimer. Maybe I should have went back and used the 7 Gemstorm in my late pick 5 ticket. Ultimately, though, I said, you know what? Southern Sea, despite being 0 for a dozen, is fresh. I like the job Eduardo Aspera Jr. does, and this horse has got enough positional speed to perhaps get himself within striking range.
Fair enough. I took a wait-and-see approach. I was just very underwhelmed by some of his races before the layoff in spots that I really thought he should have done better. He's definitely burned some money. Maybe being fresh in the barn switch will help him in here today, but generally with this barn, I like to see them with a race or even 2 off of the layoff. And certainly the horse that I ended up picking, the number 7 Gemstorm, is by no means an easy take at a short price, as he is 0 for 8 himself, and he was beat by Dominic last time. But Asked and Answered did come back to win. He's never run this low before. He is dropping in for the 12.5 in here, so hopefully that's just going to be the key for him.
And then we've got Jorge Navarro, who's scratched out of race 2 with Nauset Beach, but he's in the mix with Attorney Al, who's Mizzenmast, Stormy Atlantic, and might be worth a look getting back on the turf. Yeah,
and here's a good stat as well. In the past 5 years, going from dirt to turf with maiden claimers, he's 5 for 19, so 26% in the win column. And they're kind of either all or nothing, as you see 5 for 19 winning, 6 for 19 in the money, and just a slightly negative ROI. But you mentioned turf pedigree, both top and bottom. The dam won her only turf start, so could be a little bit of an interesting one. And this horse, he showed speed in his first race on the turf.
And although the championship meet is over, do keep in mind as you peruse today's 9-race card, the entries on today's 9-race card, you've got Todd Pletcher, Christophe Command, Jorge Navarro, Dale Romans.
Mark
they
Hennig,
all have horses. Mark Hennig as well. And that'll be the case throughout the weekend here. So the big outfit's very much still a part of the conversation and in town. And we'll see some very high-profile barns in the mix in today's featured 7th race, and a nice little solid Friday feature on the turf at 7.5 furlongs. Christophe Command has the 4, Princess Gibraltar, the French bred, coming in off a layoff, but Todd Pletcher has Samodi, who's got some recency on her and is coming out of a race. We'll show it to you back on February 23rd. She ran well in defeat, didn't get much pace to close into, and I'm wondering, playing Monday morning quarterback, as we've got her highlighted in the yellow cap and the blue sleeves of Starlight, had she drifted off the rail even more and gone 3 wide as opposed, you'll see Javier Castellano take her back inside. To me, it seemed like she almost had all this run and then just started to idle and maybe got a touch timid down there. I'm wondering if this could have been a different result had he gone outside. But the point of it is, she's a deserving favorite, I think, off her recent string of much improved turf races.
She is, and the reason that I liked her in here too, and you probably saw this, is she's pretty handy. She can be up close in the race. She can get herself involved early on. It kind of looked to me like Javier hesitated a little bit, deciding to go inside or outside, and that kind of looked like it was stemming from the fact that his horse wasn't really settled, that she wasn't really responding to him as much as he would have liked. She kind of had her head up in the air a little bit, and once he got her inside, she kind of got into her groove a little bit. By that point, it was too late. So I hope that she kind of, again, gets into the race a little bit early on, but she will have to run well because she's got some tough horses to deal with, and the 4 Princess Gibraltar, the French bred, in fact, trained by Christophe's brother Nicholas in France, now making a start off the layoff after 2 U.S. starts with Christophe. And we'll show a stat in the past 5 years. Christophe Clement, after this kind of layoff on the turf and allowance runners, we know he's a fantastic turf conditioner, but just to give some a visual representation in numbers, 30% in the win column and a positive ROI.
As we just cruise high above that infield lake, there's the big track, the big city here in Hallandale Beach, far below. Pretty picture here at Gulfstream Park. Love those aerial shots. Let's move on to race number 8 as we head down the stretch. And by the way, Danny Gargan, we should mention, at least in a cursory fashion, has the number 2 Inside Out, who's kept good company,
She
has some class. And I'm wondering, there's 2 key Marty Wolfson trainer changes on the card today. She looks very live here in race 7.
She does. She's coming out of Graded Stakes company. She faced Ultra Bratton on leave in her last 2 starts. So she's definitely faced some tough horses.
All right, Cipriano might be a good one here. Let's turn the page. We'll get on to our final dirt race and the co-feature. Just $1,000 separates the purse in races 7 and 8. 47K, in fact, up for grabs with these 3-year-old fillies sprinting 3/4. And a Bodemeister filly who was tipped out at being a good runner and a talented runner. She showed up and ran to that tote support back on January 14th. We'll get you back to that race for trainer Mark Hennig. Now, do keep in mind, as we noted when we were discussing the late pick 5 in the comments, that Cilantro in the Rapoli orange and blue had the much tougher, eventful trip, but there's no knocking how well Cipriano ran, and just for a Mark Hennig first to be this sharp, you know, this speedy, and this determined, because Cilantro made her work for the win. I think she tipped her hand at having a straight-up ability, and this is a good spot for her.
She really did, and she came right after Mark Hennig's very impressive maiden first out win with Strike Power, and certainly good to see that barn with a couple of really nice firsters that were debuting at first asking. And not only did Cilantro come back with a cleaner trip and win at Tampa, but there were 3 next out winners from that race as well. And looking back at my notes, I did think that she was a filly, Cipriano, that was a little bit distracted before the race. So I think now with some experience, she's certainly been working well. Have to imagine that she's only going to improve.
Definitely. Luz Mimi Princess seems like the main danger for trainer Gustavo Delgado, who's had a good run of things over the last few days. Had his 3-year-old turf horses in a big way here on Florida Derby Day, and then obviously made the chalk players happy with my favorite gift, who paid $420 in yesterday's featured 7th race. As we wrap things up, familiar names and no strangers to the Gulfstream Park turf here in the nightcap, as we have a very honest, venerable crew of Florida breds bringing down the curtain on this Friday, April 6th. A couple of real older geldings in the race, including the 6 Starship Wildcat, who in fact is the senior, the 9-year-old, out for his 12th lifetime win. He might be the best speed. I think he's the best speed going in. I also respect your top pick, who I've got second, the 8-year-old in Padilla, who in a way I think is almost assured a good trip.
I think so too, and you mentioned this earlier, that he's going to get a really good pace setup in here. He's a reclaim for Abu Mirage. He won 8 races out of 36 starters for 22%. So a barn that's done very well against some of those other really big outfits.
And I look to the other outside horse in the 8, More Mia, who's first time Ralph Zadie, who on a horse-for-horse basis and in the strength of that, it seems like he has
He's
more
got those
quality
turf
sprinters than any other trainer or any other outfit here in South Florida. He does really well with these veterans who are running at or near the level more Mia is, going 5/8 on the Gulfstream turf. I think the trainer change to Ralph is a big positive, and of course we'll see what your second horse, Trumpy, does, who's a bit of a wild card. Not an easy spot for him to debut, for sure, but it is Bill Mott with a horse who was good enough to win first time out up at the Spa.
He did, and then he went right into the with anticipation running against the likes of Catholic Boy, but it'd also be his first time sprinting off of the layoff.
All right, as we sprint off the set, and that means pens, pencils up. Pete Aiello's coming up next with those Friday scratches and changes here at Gulfstream.
A passion for horses and a commitment to breed champions is the foundation of Hardacre Farm. Founded by Amy Tarrant, owner, breeder, and trainer, Hardacre Farm, based in Ocala, continues its tradition of success. From the Breeders' Cup to Gulfstream Park, Hardacre Farm. From the breeding shed to the racetrack, in pursuit of producing the best.
OBS April, the 2-year-old source to the world, with Grade 1 stakes winners, including Mind Your Biscuits, impressive hero of the $2 million Dubai Golden Shaheen, Grade 1 stakes winning millionaire Sharp Ass Tekka, and Grade 1 stakes winning filly La Coronel. Find your next Grade 1 winner at the OBS Spring Sale of 2-year-old, April 24th through 27th. Undertack previews are April 16th through 21st. Yes, we measure success by performance.